not needing somebody else to complete you to feel like, you're worthy of life. So one of the things that I would say that you should probably do is, a lot of times people like finding that companionship in another person, right? So rather than just finding it in a single individual, you should have a decent amount of friend groups, or if not family units, to help kind of facilitate that same camaraderie and that companionship. So you should definitely be having friend groups where you do different activities with them, right? So maybe you have a friend group that's, for this hobby that you like doing, like playing basketball or something, right? Or this other.
This is a conversation between friends.
None of what is said here should be taken as legal advice.
We are not experts in any way.
Take what resonates and leave the rest.
Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 82. I'm back to some shots of info. For today, we're going to be focusing on foundations. I don't know how you call it, sensible topic, I guess. But how would you get over a breakup? So that's on the foundations. And if we get a chance also, maybe we can talk about what's going on with the markets, the stimulus that just passed. I would like actually see the input, what's happening over there, because I'm over here chilling. But yeah, let's get it started. So let me ask you this. Well, you have ex-girlfriends, right? So how do you deal with those?
Well, the way I dealt with them was just completely stop talking to them altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. So the whole point of the topic was because it was brought into my universe that somebody that I know kind of got into a breakup, and they were in a rut, and they've been out of the relationship for a little while, a couple months now, I think almost going on 6 months. And they're still down and depressed, and they don't really know how to kind of like function without this other person. So it kind of, gave me the idea that maybe this is something worth talking about here. So one of the things that was immediately just noticeable from this other person was the fact that a lot of the activities and a lot of the things that this person did, or he did, was centered around the other person, right? And we've talked about it before, where you kind of need to not be in a relationship where you're relying or dependent on the other person as a form of just feeling complete, right? Because that's called dependency. And whether you heard about it or not, it's essentially not being able to feel like you're your full self without another person to complete you. So that becomes a problem, because everything that you do, if the other person isn't there, then you don't feel like, you're fully there. You don't feel like you're ever doing anything at 100%. Go ahead, you were going to say something?
No, continue.
Okay. So to that end, you need to be really diligent about the fact that whenever you get into a relationship, it's not coming from a point of you need to feel whole or completed by another person because you don't feel satisfied with whatever it is internally that you have going on, right? When you go into a relationship, the whole point is to go in at 100%, and that other person adds in another 10%, right? So think of it like a cherry on top. You have the whole cake, and that's your life, and that's you, and you're complete. And then that cherry on top just adds to the decoration of your life, right? It adds value to your life as opposed to taking value away. So that's something that this person in my universe didn't have. That other person was there to complete the other 50% of the cake as opposed to being the cherry on top. So that's where you need to be good about, hey, I'm going to get into this relationship, not because I feel like I need to be completed, but because this person adds value to my life. And it's not that my life isn't fully, 100%, but, they can add an extra 10% on top of the 100. Go ahead.
That's for sure. Yeah, definitely agree with you on that. And that's something that I actually had to learn from experience, because I feel like the only serious relationship that I have been with was with my high school sweetheart, which was 5 years ago. So that was the only relationship that was said I've been involved with, like fully committed. So when that happened and when we broke up, from my personal experience, yeah, I kind of struggled a lot actually because I was depending on her. And I guess a lot of things, even though I was living in Buffalo, we did activities together, such as like, FaceTime every night. That became like a ritual for us. And I can actually say that I was in love with her because I believe I was. And, it's a chemical reaction that it's part of humans,
Natural.
And it's natural, exactly. So I cannot deny what not being in love with before. So it was rough. For me, it was rough going through the breakup. How did I deal with it? Well, we actually stopped communication like altogether. We tried to be the friends, initially for like a month. And after that, it didn't work out. Like, we both had feelings for each other and it wasn't going to look nice for either of us. So she blocked me on everything. It was actually her who blocked me on everything. And I felt like I never got a really, like the closure. I never felt like I had the really closure back then. And
It's
that's
always
why,
how it is.
yeah, and I felt like that's why I got into that dark ages on my teenage 19. By 19, I got, I hit bottom rock because of that. I was doing a lot of drugs. Well, not like, just weed, drinking and stuff like that. So I think it was because of that. But eventually I learned. I was like, yo, what the fuck am I doing? And that's when I started, like working on myself and went back to college. And here I am, like about to graduate with a computer science degree. And, I think that was like one of the biggest lessons of my life eventually, because it led me to the point that I am and to be the man that I am as well. So yeah, I guess depending on the person that you're talking about or the person that are young, definitely a breakup is one of those lessons that you actually need to go through and see how you react. Maybe some of the kids who have seen before like breakups or maybe know about it or there's different type of peoples. They can deal with it differently, but because of me, like I had to deal with on my own. I don't have older brothers that can tell me like how it was. And actually, my sister used to tell me like, because I still used to like maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, like a year after we broke up, I still had this little stuffed pillow that she gave me, and my sister was like, "You gotta burn that, throw the shit away," and that's eventually what I did. And ultimately, I got rid of everything that reminded me of her to away because I didn't want her in my life anymore. And even if she was to come back, I didn't want to be back with her because the reason why we broke up, it was for something, right? And yeah, but I think going through a breakup is hard, and everybody's going to deal differently. But there is a saying that women suffer at the beginning, but men suffer in the long term. So
Isn't it the reverse?
no,
That's worse.
So women tend to suffer like the first months, whereas men, they enjoy the freedom of the first months, but they end up missing afterwards.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, you go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's all you.
Okay. So yeah, you basically hit on a couple points there, right? So like in the initial part where you guys, you break up, a good practice is to kind of just break all communication. And again, there's a reason why you guys broke up. And if you try to facilitate some sort of a relationship with each other, at the end of the day, it's just going to end badly. So yeah, just try to cut communication, and then eventually, maybe if you guys see that there's a potential for a friendship, you can reconvene later on down the road. But like I'm talking about like months, if not years later. And most of the time, by that point, you've already found somebody else, or you've moved on, or you're doing something else with your life. And this person will be what they are, a memory in your past, nothing more.
Right.
And that's where they should be, because they were there to help you grow. And you grew like you did, right?
Exactly.
So it set you back a little bit because, you became relatively, down on yourself and about life and doing a lot of drugs. But that allowed for a lot of self-reflection. And then the realization that, hey, I can't just live my life like this simply because of this one moment, this one person, right? So that's where, you get those realizations, and they usually come from the hardest moments. So that's a good thing to happen, but it's not something that you have to repeat. So there's that. Second, that's dealing with the initial hit, right? The initial breakup. moving forward, so that this doesn't happen again, we go back to what I was telling you about having a complete system, or a complete sense of worth, right? Not needing somebody else to complete you, to feel like, you know, you're worthy of life. So one of the things that I would say that you should probably do is, a lot of times people like finding that companionship in another person, right? So rather than just finding it in a single individual, you should have a decent amount of friend groups, or if not family units, to help kind of facilitate that same camaraderie and that companionship. So you should definitely be having friend groups where you do different activities with them, right? So maybe you have a friend group that's, you know, for this hobby that you like doing, like playing basketball or something, right? Or this other group of friends where you guys like doing outdoor things, right? Like going on adventures, going on trips, maybe traveling, right? So you guys are a group of friends that like to travel. And then you should be having strong family ties, because that's one of the other components that most people end up missing. And, you know, you have a tendency of kind of just pulling back from the family and pulling back from your friends to be with this one person. That happens a lot. That's where the codependency comes in, right? So that's something that you have to be really diligent about not doing. Like, hey, you're starting to see the signs that, hey, I'm spending a little bit too much time with this person and I'm completely neglecting everything else in my life. That's a sign that something is not particularly balancing out well. So you have that. And yeah, that's it. I would say that the other component is to pursue purpose. We've said it before and we'll say it again. If you're not on some sort of mission or some sort of purpose, that's going to set you back a lot, because the only thing you're going to focus on are, again, other people and other people's problems. And that's usually going to show up in the form, if you have a partner in a relationship, you're going to focus on them and solving their problems. And that's what's going to make you codependent. That's what's going to make you needy. That's what's going to make you annoying. And that's what's going to make them break up with you.
Definitely, for sure. Yeah, I think, well, going back to the point that you mentioned about getting a purpose, I think that's actually one of the keys, not just like for a relationship to work, but also for yourself to have a purpose, or like wake up in the morning, honestly. Like, why are you waking up in the morning? So definitely that it is experience. And I'm saying, I don't know how old, you know, the person that you're talking about is, or maybe who's listening to this and maybe can relate. If you are young, I think, well, I feel like you should definitely encounter a breakup, definitely fall in love, because that's really one of those experiences that you never get back. Well, you will get back eventually, but it's a beautiful experience to go through. So, but you learn a lot from it as well. So if you guys break up for some reason, then you have a lesson, and then you just move on with your life, and you just grow as a man, as a woman, as whatever, you know. So yeah, I agree with you regarding, you know, all those points about the codependency, and why, you know, a breakup might become like super super hard for certain people, is because they become really really dependent with each other. And sometimes it's not even love, it's just like the lifestyle that they have with the partner. They just got so comfortable with it. So maybe
Those little habits, those little
yeah,
routines, you do them every day, right? And then when that's taken away from you, you're just like, whoa,
mhm,
how do I even live life?
exactly. So definitely try to be your own individual rather than, you know, be dependent. And like Randy mentioned, be the entire cake, and just that person that comes into your life is a compliment rather than be the half of it. And just think about it. You are also going to be the little cherry in her cake, because she might have her own goals, she might have her own ambitions, and you guys are going to complement each other in such a way that you guys are going to push each other to bring the best out of you both, right? So yeah, I think breakups are
That's actually one of the other points that I wanted to mention. So let's say hypothetically you do get into a relationship where, you know, you're at where you need to be, you're the cake, and the other person is looking to you as a codependent person, right? That's going to be difficult, right? Because you're on one level and she, or the other person's on another level. You guys aren't matching up. And at the end of the day, that's not going to end well, because again, both of you need to be on the same level with this. That's a relationship, right? You guys need to be working on the same team, on the same side. So when you see these things happening, when these little things where, you know, like this other person is looking to you to feel complete and feel validated for their existence,
Yeah.
you have to be diligent about, like, you know, if you really care about this person, you really want to try to make a relationship work with them, try to push them to, you know, kind of get their stuff together, right? Try to push them towards some sort of purpose, not necessarily motivate them, but just push them towards being more independent and self-reliant in who they are and their self-worth, right? But at the end of the day, that's something that's going to be up to them. If they don't want to do the work and they're content with where they are and how everything is going, then if you're an individual that's, you know, having about a growth mindset and wanting to, you know, better yourself and pursue your purpose and try to be better every day in your life, this might be somebody that's going to hold you back. And, you know, it's a harsh reality of the world, but sometimes that's what ends up happening, right? So if somebody's there and they're going to hold you back and they're going to stagnate you, it's better to cut things off early as opposed to just leaving it there because you feel bad for this other person. At the end of the day, it's not your responsibility to take care of other people, or to a certain extent, it's not your responsibility to take care of other people that don't want to help themselves, right? Because it's their life. And if they're choosing to not live up to their potential, then so be it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to come down with them.
That's actually true. That's absolutely, I had that on my mind as well. And that's true. It's hard nowadays to, you know, meet or match at the same level with certain person. But even if you give it a try for, like, I don't know, for like the initial phase of the relationship to see how, you know, willing is she to be the best version of herself. And, you know, for somebody who is on their purpose like me and not having that partner, it will be tough. Because like you said, it's going to kind of like hold you back. And even if you try to bring her with you, it's, if there's no ambition, there's not really.
They're going to be dragging you down, right?
Yeah,
It's like an anchor to a boat.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
An
No,
anchor
but
just holds you down.
it's tough. I think that goes more into the topic about the type of relationships rather than breakups. So let's not deviate.
No, yeah, we can definitely say that for another topic, but, you know, touching the surface there.
Yeah, definitely for sure.
So yeah,
But
I think that about covers it. You got anything else to add?
what do you think a relationship breaks? So let's say after 5 to 10 years of relationship, why a relationship would break?
There's so many different things, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right off the jump, a lot of times relationships kind of like they end up breaking relatively early, but people stay committed to each other simply because of fill in the reason. You know, sometimes it could be religion, sometimes it could be family, just like the society that they live in, or the fact that they're comfortable. Like you mentioned, they built up these routines and these habits together, so they're kind of just comfortable and complacent. Sometimes it could be regarding, you know, material possessions, right? So the money and the assets and the way that's going to be divided. There's so many reasons, man. But one of the main things, so here, the three pillars that, you know, we usually go about like having a good relationship is purpose, genuine desire, and respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some point down the line, one, if not multiple of these things ends up being lost. They stop having genuine desire for you, whether that be because, you know, they got bored, or, you know, you both kind of just let each other go. You stop, you know, trying to be the best for each other. You stop trying to be in shape. You stop trying to be fill in the blank. You stop being the same person than you were in the beginning, right? And you slowly let yourself go. They stop respecting you, right? So that goes towards the topic of boundaries that we've talked about in the past, right? There was boundaries that were meant to be set that you never did, or there were boundaries that this person crossed that you never enforced, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say hypothetically, you're like, listen, I don't like when you do X, and the person does X just to test you. And rather than, you know, reinforcing the fact that you don't like that, you just let it go, and they just keep doing it and you just keep letting it go. That's a good way to lose respect for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this guy's just a pushover. I can do whatever I want, right? Nobody really wants to be with an individual that they don't respect.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last part is purpose. So, you know, this can go in a bunch of different ways, but hypothetically speaking, if you met somebody and, you know, they were full of life and they had purpose and they had meaning to the things that they were doing, and for whatever the reason is they lose it, right? Sometimes it could be you know, a hard thing in life, like an accident or maybe a death, some death in the family or whatever the case is. And, you know, they really lose motivation and just an incentive to live life. And then they don't ever find it again. And they kind of just fall in this slippery slope. It would be like you, when you broke up with your girl that first time and you fell down the slippery slope and you never recovered. You kind of just kept doing the same thing, right? Like, you know, from that point, like, who do you think would want to be with you?
Mm-hmm.
There's no incentive for you to live life and push forward because you're so depressed and you don't want to do anything. So that's one of the other things that usually ends up breaking a relationship: lack of purpose.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely. Those three pillars are really, really important, and especially the respect, I think, is one of those things that for a relationship to work, you know, respect doesn't only mean like I respect you the way that you respect me, but it also can incorporate trust, right, in communication. But yeah, for sure, those I agree with those two pillars because you know that's the things that we need to live up to by, and in order for us to like find a stable relationship and a good partner, because it's hard nowadays because people are trying to live their life and like everybody, I'm trying to enjoy my life as well.
Here's another thing, right? Like, we have so much technology available to us. Like, we don't even need to let relationships work out, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you like you said it before, immediately, if you see something that you don't like, boom, you're already ready to move on to the next person. And, you know, sometimes it's a little thing that if you could have just like talked it out, boom, they would have solved the problem. But because, you know, we live in a world where everything moves so quickly and you can move on so quickly that we don't even give it a chance. So,
Well, yes, now I'm trying to understand now into like this committed relationship. And something that I have been learning throughout these years is that if you want to be with that person, you're gonna stay with that person. Like you're gonna actually make it work because like
mhm.
you see value in that person, and you you know like she compliments you in a way, such a way that you both are the best version for yourself. Why would you let the person go just for like a petty shit, you know? So if you guys are willing to work on it and you both put your part to work on that issue, then the relationship eventually is going to keep growing. And this actually, I have been kind of coming to a realization more and more as I see my older sister who been married since she was 18 with her husband, and she's what 20? She's about to be 29 actually next week.
11 years.
11 years, yeah. So it's been a long time, and they have actually shown me that, you know, and I've been talking to my brother-in-law as well. Like he's been telling me like, yes, there was a time that my sister, she actually walked away from the house and I thought it was over, and it took me a minute to realize what I was losing. Like he literally waited for like half an hour to actually go and, you know, go and talk to her and reach out to her and just follow her because he realized that like what he was losing at the moment, because it was just for the petty shit. And after that he mentioned that you know, like because they have a business together, so they say like she has been my biggest support. Like I wouldn't be the man or like who I am now if she wasn't there. He's a grown-ass man. So it's
And that's
interesting.
what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because, well, at the end of the day, that's what a relationship is about you guys growing together and being better. And if you find that, you know, again, be careful about not becoming in a codependent relationship here.
For sure.
But if you find a way to be with somebody where you guys both grow together, that's the ideal, right? That's what most people are looking for, and that's what most people tend to not find because of every reason that we mentioned before. So
definitely, for sure. You're definitely more expert on this relationship type of advice. I'm not. I'm very novice. I'm still
not yet.
Not yet. I think I have like a good foundation about how I wanted to start to kind of like begin a solid relationship, but I do have a little bit of high standards on my end because
Perfectly fine, man.
you know And yeah, I was like you mentioned, like, little shit that I don't like, I would just move on to a different one. And but then, we can really ask for
But perfect, right? So it's
yeah,
not like we
there's no perfection. There you go. There's never gonna be a perfect girl. Nor such a thing as a perfect man as well. So we're just gonna go with the best. Cool. All right. So what you got for me on the finance section? Like the market been crashing last week. The
well
whole week.
since you've been gone. The market
Bro,
is
I
shit,
left.
Mike. I don't know what you did, but for some reason you were the catalyst for the market dropping off a cliff.
I was just gonna say that. Like at the moment that I left New York, the market is still crashing like crazy.
I don't know, man. I think you have this magnetic effect, and once you left, it just fell off a cliff. So yeah, so one of the big things, and I think we talked about it in number 80, podcast number 80, about
Mm-hmm.
bond yields, or maybe we didn't. But essentially, the bond yield has been going up, which has been dropping the market. I don't know the best way to explain it because I'm not 100% fluent with speaking about bonds. But yeah, so that's been going up while the market has been dropping because of that. And now we are getting the talks about the stimulus passing, right? So that's usually a positive catalyst. But the reason why the bond yields have been rising is because of fears of inflation.
Right.
Given the fact that more money into into the economy isn't necessarily going to be conducive to preventing inflation. If anything, it's going to make inflation happen a little bit faster. People are still not a little hesitant that inflation is probably start setting in eventually. Interest rates are zero, so there's no incentive for you to save money at this point because you're not going to save anything. If you go check your bank account, they're not giving you anything for leaving the money there. Whereas if you would have checked like 2 or 3 years ago, you would have gotten a decent percent return. So with interest rates low and with more money being put into the economy and more people at this point during the pandemic, kind of being more diligent about not spending as much money because, they want to keep it and never need it for an emergency. This is likely to start causing interest rates to rise again, right? Which is going to incentivize people to save more of their money. Because right now, at this point, with interest rates so low, people should be incentivized to spend money, but they're not. So when interest rates start going up and now people are being incentivized to save more money, since nobody was spending when the interest rates are low, now even less people are going to spend when interest rates start raising, which is going to be a problem because that's going to cause inflation given the fact that there's so much money out in the market at this point. So long story short, shit is going down, but I don't know for how long.
No, definitely. Like anything, it had to happen. Honestly, like we saw the huge rise on the tech, especially the tech bubble, and we saw tremendous increase on certain sectors, such as like the crypto mining and tech and 5G. Like a lot of sectors growing during this pandemic, whereas the economy was on shit, like on literally shithole. And why is because the stimulus package. Well, first of all, I was just reading an article, the comparison between the second stimulus package and the third stimulus package that is being passed, and there's a huge difference on where the money is being allocated. Now, the second stimulus package, it was mainly on, if you guys remember, we talked here on the podcast, it was going to literally other countries, companies, and just a tiny bit to the people of the country who actually needed it. And whereas these newer stimulus packages, and I'm not like, go Democrats like crazy, but they actually looking out for the people. Like, but there's a consequence, of course, and the consequence is going to be the inflation because they don't realize how much money is going to be now circulating in the economy and in the country. That the dollar that you have in your pocket today is no longer going to be worth the same dollar tomorrow, and that causes panic among the people. But yeah, I think overall we will see some times of uncertainty moving forward until at least like vaccination is like what do you call it, given to like at least 80%.
Vaccinated. Everybody's vaccinated. Yeah.
Yeah. And the economy is fully like open to to do business, even though it's not going to be like what it was 2 years ago, or actually a year ago, where everything was normal or some type of normal. But we will be discovering a new type of normal, and hopefully there is a rapid recovery, and the inflation doesn't go up too high as well. The unemployment rate is been decreasing, which is good news as well. But we will see what happens, honestly, and just time will tell us how the economy will look like in the next few months or so. Yeah.
All right.
But
I think that's it, man.
yeah. But today, markets started rising, picking up itself up, maybe uptrend in the near future.
The Nasdaq hit hit the newest highs, or the highest highs in the last 4 months. So today the Nasdaq rose so much that within the last 4 months it just hit a new high.
Yeah.
How high it rose.
Well, we'll see what happened. Well, just time will tell, honestly. But yeah, other than that, got nothing more to say. Peace out. We'll see you next time.
What the is we?